take a closer look at bullying. As we know, October is known for all types of causes, and we've covered a number of them. In days past, girls were just seen as being catty, and boys were expected to duke it out. Today, we want to wipe it out. David Begnaud joins us this morning to talk about his own experiences growing up. If he looks familiar, he should. He's the lead national correspondent for CBS This Morning, 48 Hours, among other job titles. Good morning, David.
Hello, Deborah.
All right, let's go back in time. Do you remember one of the early moments where you realized that you were being picked on for something that you couldn't help and that as a child you just didn't understand?
Yeah, I was 6 years old. I was diagnosed with Tourette Syndrome. And, you know, Deb, when I thought back to this interview to get ready, I had to remind myself, what were some of the first feelings I remembered having? And I remembered feeling out of place. I remembered there was something about what I did, right? Like I had this tongue thing where I would kind of do this, where I'd stick my tongue out to the right and make a vibrating noise. I'd blink my eyes, I'd twitch my head, especially if I was feeling stressed. And I was 6 years old. And so I was diagnosed with Tourette Syndrome. My parents didn't know what it was, and they put me on a blood pressure medication, which I still sort of resent to this day, because what it did was it made my blood pressure plummet as a child, and I fell asleep. And I remember a teacher in 5th grade saying to me, Deborah, not to me but to my classmates, she said, let him sleep. He's less disruptive if he's sleeping, so just let him sleep.
Wow.
And it just, I went to 5 different schools as a child. My dad homeschooled me. I mean, my parents pulled out all the stops they could, never let me use it as an excuse.
Yeah, but the fact that your parents tried to do the right thing,
debilitating.
As you're saying, tried to do the right thing, and so they took you away from the bullying. And you know, homeschooling works for a lot of families when they choose to do that. But in a sense, did you feel like what you did something wrong, like you were having to be taken away out of a social situation, which I would imagine also impacted you? And the thing is, what they were picking on you about would always go with you. It was a part of you. You couldn't get rid of that.
Exactly. I couldn't get rid of it. And you know what? I never felt like I was sort of being penalized because my parents never made me feel like it was my fault. But in never letting me use it as an excuse, when I wanted to say, hey, listen, don't you understand? This is why. But they refused to. They were like, you're going to stay in the regular class. You're going to go to. And I remember the 5th grade, my parents actually went to the school counselor and they said, can you meet with David's classes? I had 3 different classes in 5th grade. And literally the counselor went into every class to tell the kids what was happening. Now that sounds admirable, but when you tell 5th graders and they're in 5th grade, they might have a moment of, we hear you and we care about you, but they also have moments of like, what a freak show, right? And so I don't really harbor any resentment toward the kids, but I will tell you this is such a great story. My aunt went to see a podiatrist in town in Louisiana, where I'm from, Lafayette, and he's working on her, and she mentions me, and he says, well, I went to school with him, and he tells a story of, oh God, I remember how bad he was bullied, and the doctor's nurse says, oh yeah, but kids go through that. And according to my aunt, the doctor stopped, he put his stuff down, and he backed up, and he said, I don't think you understand. I will never forget what he went through. It was that painful.
Wow.
And when I heard that story, I thought, wow, we are in our mid-30s, and that story is as real for him as it is for me this many years later.
And David, you've always said my Achilles heel, you know, Tourette's was at 6, that was your Achilles heel, but also the fuel that has driven you. What's interesting is that you had people advocating for you. You had your parents advocating for you. You had some people at school advocating for you. The problem we have today is bullying in general, but there are a lot of kids who have nobody advocating for them, and that has an outcome that we cannot accept.
So that's why people like me want you to know this. My story is one of a tormented childhood because of something I couldn't control. But my story has progressed into incredible achievement where dreams have been fulfilled because I had people who were willing to take a chance on me. So if you're watching this right now, whether it's Tourette's, whether it's cancer, whether it's autism, whether it's ADHD, whatever your disability or whatever your quirk is, I call mine my quirk, you too can get to a better place. And that's what I try to do with my platform, my social media platform, Deb. I try and find a space where I can give people a place to come and be heard. Because there was a day where I thought there's no way a guy with Tourette's like me can achieve the dream which I want to do, which is be a national news correspondent. I didn't know it was possible. And look at me now.
Yes, look at you now. All right, we thank you for speaking out. Others, Billie Eilish, Dan Aykroyd, David Beckham. And so when they do that, you realize that it doesn't mean you can't accomplish your dreams if you just have kind of your thing, right? There's another group that is oftentimes bullied. I know I went through it with friends of mine in high school. I didn't understand what gay was. Later, I did, and they told me how they were deathly afraid that people would find out. You have said that you could hide your being gay, but you couldn't hide Tourette's. What was your decision to finally come out, and what was the reaction?
I was 24 years old. I'll never forget. I was coming down through the clouds in McAllen, Texas, going to cover children being separated at the border from their parents. And it was Gay Pride Day in New York. And I had been in a relationship that I'm still in, but at that point it was, I don't know, maybe 6 years in. And I remember thinking to myself, I owe it not only to me, but I owe it to him to no longer lie or look the other way. And so I put out a tweet where I think it said something to the effect of telling my story, telling other people's stories includes sharing my own. And I never had one negative reaction. Now, Deb, listen, I grew up in the South where people struggle with it. They grew up hearing something else. I get it. But here's what I say. I respect you, whatever color, whatever orientation, whatever you want to be. But just understand that who I am is who God made me to be. I didn't wake up one day and go, I choose to be gay. I first realized that my first attraction was to someone of the same sex. So it's very simple. So that's what it was for me in terms of coming out. But listen, there was a doozy of a point where I thought, Jesus, can I get to where I want to go? Can you be gay and can you have Tourette's? And not only is the answer yes, but in the world we're living in today, you can do it and you can thrive. Because, by the way, there's nothing wrong with having Tourette's and being gay.
Yeah,
there's nothing wrong with it.
We've come a long way.
To the people.
We've come a long way.
Come a long way, right?
October 11th, it's funny, was National Coming Out Day, and a friend of mine came out, had his fingers crossed, told his parents, and he goes, my parents were fine with it. Can you believe? I go, well, yeah, because you came to the Christmas party last year holding your boyfriend's hand and kissing. So I think they weren't surprised, right? They already knew. And it's surprising what people already know, look, and sometimes Deborah, we beat ourselves up.
Totally, and let me share this story with you. When I came out, I'll never forget what my father did. He took me for a ride, and he said to me with both eyes on the road and me sitting in the passenger seat, he said, son, you have 10 fingers, 10 toes, a good heart, and a great personality. If living with a man makes you happy, then I am happy for you. And that was in his way, his permission to not only say I'm good with it, but I love you and I don't care about it. And the guy hadn't asked a question since. He's treated every partner I've had like a member of the family. That is a blessing.
All right. Well, David, thank you very much for sharing your blessings with us.